to allow the candidates to share their views and thoughts. As we have in all of the others, we allowed the candidates to draw for their positioning. And after they drew, Scott Layh drew the first position. And so, Scott, we will allow you to have the first opening statement. You have 1 minute to make your remarks.
Thank you. I also want to thank you guys for coming out. It's a great crowd, incredible crowd. I'm honored to be here. I've been honored for the last 6 years, almost 6 years, to be your sexual assault and child abuse prosecutor. I've been honored to be the lead prosecutor for the 244th Judicial District Court. In the last 6 years, I've tried more cases, probably close to double as many cases as any other attorney in this county. I'm proud of that record. I'm proud of the conviction record I have. I've done a good job trying those cases, and I'm very proud of what we've done in the District Attorney's Office. I'm also the lead for the Texas J Child Fatality Review Team. Basically, we review 16 counties worth of any death of a child under 17 years old. I also am the leader of the investigation team for all the sexual assault cases. We meet at Harmony Home on a regular basis, and I lead those meetings on a bi-weekly basis, and I've very rarely missed any of those meetings. I'm also proud to say that I lead the sexual assault response training team, and that we received a national award and actually won a national competition with that team.
That's time. Thank you very much. And the incumbent, Cindy Weir-Nutter, you have 1 minute for your opening statement.
Yes, thank you. I came into an office filled with challenges and goals. Some I knew before I entered office, and some I encountered only afterwards. With one of the highest caseloads in the 18 counties surrounding us in population, we were tied with the least number of staff. No wonder there was a backload of cases. But using common sense and transferring staff between divisions, and using non-taxpayer sources such as the hot check and pretrial intervention fees, which are paid by offenders, we created more positions, purchased 3 vehicles, equipment, furniture, computers, and other supplies, all while lowering our taxpayer-funded budget in several areas. Using innovative ideas such as flex time and other incentives, we have not only been able to accomplish our goals, but also clear the vast backlog, keep the office open at all times, even during lunch, conduct after-hours operations such as warrant roundups, events, CPS, and other hearings.
Ms. Weir-Nutter, that's time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judy DeRiso, you have the first question for both candidates.
Okay. Do you consider yourself to be landlord-oriented or tenant-oriented?
Mr. Layh, you can go first.
Thank you. When you say landlord-oriented or tenant-oriented, and applying that to the county attorney's office, it basically means that you have to look at the rights of each of the individuals. You can't pick one over the other. You have to look at the facts of each section, each division, each individual, and determine from those facts who you support and who you get behind. When you look at the laws in Texas and the laws that apply to the landlord tenants, you're going to have a landlord with certain rights, and you're going to have a tenant with certain other rights as well. And that tenant, as the occupant, has the right to that land. The landlord has the right to determine if that tenant can remain in that land. And so it depends completely and totally on the circumstances and the facts for those individuals.
Yes, as far as that question, I really think it's important. You know, we have such an influx coming into town, and I think that when people come into Ector County, they need to know that they need to obey the laws of Ector County. And I believe especially as it involves hot checks and things like that, I believe that we need to protect our landlords and our Ector County citizens. Of course, both parties have responsibilities to uphold. But as far as it concerns the county attorney's office, I'm proud that we do stand behind our landlords and we do enforce hot checks. We do track those down, and we do expect people to abide by the laws of Ector County.
The next question is for you, Mr. Layh. Clearly the hot check fund has been a bone of contention in your race. That's probably putting it lightly. On your website on March 8th, your website stated that the hot check fund had around $16,000 today. That's an exact quote. You later came back and wrote that at the end of this fiscal year, it will be $16,000 and some change. Now today, on May 9th, the fund sits at around $80,368. That's up from $76,202 on April 30th. Your use of the $16,000 number back in March looks misleading. How do you defend that, and what would you use? the fund
I'd
for?
simply say this, that the hot check fund, what has happened with that hot check fund is when Ms. Nutter came into office, it was at an all-time high. It has continually risen from 2001 all the way until January of 2009. At that time, you can see a clear and vast drop, almost an immediate drop, not in just collections, but in the use of that fund. You can also look at the reports from the county auditor's report where over $50,000 was spent on furniture alone for an office that already had furniture, including $8,000 on 2 filing cabinets. What the $16,000 amount is specifically that at the end of this fiscal year, at the end of September of 2012, it will sit at $16,000. There's 3 more months in the year to continue on that fund. What that hot check fund should be used for is for training, for supplementing the income of the attorneys, and for the staff at that office. That's what it's been used for in the past, not for purchasing furniture, not for spending over $10,000 on luncheons, caterings, donuts, ice cream, those kind of items.
That's time. Ms.
Could
Weird,
I go back for 1 minute? But you used $16,000 as that's what's in the fund. How do you defend that?
I can simply say that was a mistaken statement. The fact is, at that time, back in January, February, March, April, and to this date, it still states on the county auditor's report that it will be at $16,000 at the end of this fiscal year.
Right. What would you use the fund for? What would you buy with it?
I would use it for the training, the necessary training for the attorneys and for the staff, for the necessary funds to supplement the income for the attorneys as well as the staff members, because we don't have a huge budget. We only are allowed a certain amount of money from the county. That's what it's been used for in the past, and that's the proper way to use it.
Ms. Weir Nutter, a chance for a 1-minute rebuttal.
Yes, I would love to. I have used the hot check fund. I've spent less each year than my predecessors, and I have more to show for it. I used that to refurbish the office, and in a comparison, in another office of my size, they also spent over $40,000 refurbishing their office when they came into office, but they used general funds. I chose to use discretionary funds. As time goes on and we are able to build the fund back up, it will be built up. I'm looking at the long term, and I chose to use those funds for trainings, for furnishings, equipment, things so that we could lower our general taxpayer budget in several areas, and that's what we've done.
Which office used $40,000 to buy furniture?
At the district attorney's office.
Robert Hallmark, you have the next question.
Yes, ma'am. And this is for Cindy Weir Nutter. Also in the news, the hiring of outside counsel for the Environmental Enforcement Agency was recently approved. Can you defend why your office needs an outside counsel for these types of cases?
Yes, sir. For environmental laws, there is a criminal aspect and a civil aspect. We are handling, and we're happy to handle the criminal aspect of that. As a matter of fact, we have supplemented the salary so that they could get a good officer. We have provided thousands of dollars in support and paid for his training. We provided a vehicle that we purchased with the hot check fund. If someday we get a separate civil division, we would be happy to handle that. We can't at this time because there are protections that are in place. You cannot represent someone on a civil action and a criminal action at the same time, because if I'm visiting you about your case and you haven't been briefed on your rights in a criminal case, you may share something with me in the civil aspect of the case that could turn it into a criminal case. And so it's protection of the citizens, and since we do not have a separate civil side, this is the best way to get it going.
I may respond briefly. This environmental litigation, these aren't civil matters. These are criminal matters. This is the first time in Ector County's history that we've outsourced criminal prosecution and paid for an outside attorney to come in to the county attorney's office for criminal prosecution. Ms. Nutter, when she ran for office 4 years ago, said that one of the problems with the county attorney's office was that they were outsourcing all of the civil work, outsourcing all of the work to other attorneys, and therefore wasting and spending money on that. Not only does she not do any of the civil work inside the office, our county judge has done some of that civil work for her, and we have still continued to maintain the outsourcing of all that civil work. That was one of the promises she made when she ran 4 years ago, and I may make the same statement right now. We are still outsourcing all of our civil work, as well as now we're outsourcing our criminal work with that environmental litigation situation.
Ms. Weir Nutter, would you like to respond?
That's simply not true. We are handling the criminal aspect. The outsourcing is for the civil aspect. That firm gets a percentage of it. If it were possible for us to handle it, we would. I have gone before the Commissioner's Court and sought to have the civil position reopened within the office. That was denied in 2003. The Commissioner's Court determined to close that position and to handle that themselves. I have offered to handle it, and I look forward to hopefully handle it in the future. Each budget year, we try to get that reopened so that we can handle the civil matters. We do handle any civil matters that are asked of us, but that is up to the Commissioner's Court. And just to clarify, it is the criminal. We are handling criminal prosecutions. Prior to my coming into office, we did outsource the criminal prosecutions in the JP courts. But my office has taken that over, and so we are not having to outsource any criminal matters in Ector County.
The next two questions I have come from our OA Interactive desk. These are folks who are online with the new technology.